So, the big question is this: how are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough? Use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams. Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question. And this podcast will give you the answers. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of our show, Bootstrapping Your Dreams. As usual, I'm your host, Manuj Aggarwal, and today I'm talking with Dr. Brian P. Ramos, who has a Ph.D. in neurobiology from Yale University. Today, he will take us through a new idea or technique on how we can hack our DNA to integrate our wellness and self-care practices at our places of business and work to keep us balanced at all times, even when we are exposed to difficult or stressful situations. So welcome, Dr. Ramos.
Thank you for having me. I grew up in Puerto Rico, and I had a regular upbringing like anybody else. And oftentimes when I work with clients or students, they're amazed at some of the things that I can do and how I can remain 100%, not 90 or 85 or 90, 100% stress and disease free. And then they wonder if that's even possible. And I'll tell you later how I know that this is possible and how I tested it. And so, but I was a regular kid and very young for my age. So when I hit 22, I was about to graduate from college. Mm-hmm. My dad passed away, I had mentioned earlier. Oh, yeah. And it really thrust me into the real world at a very young age, really as a child, mm-hmm. having to start graduate school in a new place. It was a completely different culture than what I was used to, different climate. And I got brutally sick at that first winter there. Okay. And prior to that, before my dad had passed away, I had gotten sick, and he knew I was working towards starting to learn how to be healthier because I had a good role model in him. Mm-hmm. And so I remember he told me one day that he saw me struggling being sick. He told me, hey, you know that even Jesus, kind of trying to make the emphasis of somebody that we really look highly upon, mm-hmm. that even Jesus got sick, trying to like make me feel maybe better that I was sick and what have you. And I kind of didn't really make me feel any better. I really wanted to discover, I always never wanted to satisfy with just believing, with doing what was common, what was the norm. I always thought that there was something better. Mm-hmm. And so I really wanted to start to work from the outside in. And at a young age, I started doing that. And so I started to take this journey from understanding the world outside of me to the nervous system. And that's how I went to start to understand and study psychiatry and the nervous system and stress and how to enhance the nervous system function, how to gain control over areas of the brain, areas of our nervous system that we don't think we have control over. And I encountered yoga at a young age, and that gave me another key tool at my disposal that I really went deeply into for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so I started to do progressively more and more advanced yoga practices, not what people normally in America think of as yoga, which is more exercise oriented. But I started to really go very deeper into yoga and integrating what I had learned and yoga and the practice that I was doing with yoga, integrating that into myself, testing it first on myself, and gaining an understanding. So you see a lot of people out there that call themselves coaches, health coaches, life coaches, and even people in the academic circle that write books about stress or health, and they aren't really role models of that. They don't understand stress and how to navigate it at a deep level. Mm-hmm. They haven't mastered it, not just like when I talk, I don't talk from an academic standpoint. I don't refer hearsay. I don't talk about somebody else's research. I only use that in books to reinforce the fact that what I'm saying is based on evidence. And so what I've done is anything that I teach, I have mastered myself. I have tested on myself and in others. And so, for example, when I say And when I talk about being 100% disease-free, I have tested that myself by inoculating myself with viruses that have sent people to the hospital.
Wow.
And I've been able to experience what it is to have it within you and how and develop techniques to actually overcome it and to figure out what are the things that are taking you away from balance and how to maintain balance at all times.
That's
And so
amazing.
really the art of mastering this is really being in a balance point where you don't, if you do push yourself to an extreme, you learn how to bring yourself back. And so if you remain in balance and you remain above the tide of stress, disease, pain, suffering, then you never get sick. It really is an energetic, conscious phenomenon. It's a consciousness phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a video on YouTube where I go into some details about this, where I relate it to animals and why animals don't get as sick as humans do. Mm-hmm. And what we can do to reconnect with what an animal naturally already has, which is a connection with nature that we as conscious beings have lost because we do things that take us away from what our cells naturally are able to do. So naturally, we're able to remain in homeostasis, but we actually push ourselves away from that. So over the course of 2 decades, I did a lot of research. I did, publish stuff. And I was immersed in deep practices to really try to do this, not for myself. I was never focused on, I want to be the healthiest person. Look at me. It was always, how can I do this so that then I can teach people the skills to be able to do it themselves? Because ultimately, I don't want people to have to depend on me to work with me, let's say, in one of my programs, or to go to a retreat, what have you. I want them to learn it, and then they can become free from me, free from the medical system, free from drugs. I don't go to the doctor. I don't have a primary care physician. I don't take medication. I don't expect to leave my body because my body is broken and withered. I expect to leave my body when I am ready to leave because I've accomplished what I was meant to do in this lifetime.
That's amazing. That's awesome. All right. So just so that we can understand this concept a little bit better, can you tell us what really is DNA hacking? And assuming that you're trying to explain it to a 6-year-old, so maybe use some simpler words so that we can understand.
All right. So in a basic sense, we have this concept that we inherit DNA, mm-hmm. and that DNA, in an essence, determines a lot of our traits, our health. That is why a physician will do a history. Mm-hmm. So they'll take a history and, do you have family history of diabetes or arthritis or whatever it may be? And when in fact, when you actually do an analysis of the literature, you'll find that, for example, for cancer, it's only 2% of the cases are really of a strong genetic origin. 98% of them are really under your control.
Okay.
If you take any other of the common chronic illnesses that are very common in the Western world, we're talking about 5% or less of them are, again, of a genetic origin in a sense. Mm-hmm. You can imagine the genes as software of our computer.
Yeah.
So I can have many different softwares on my computer, but if I'm really savvy and I know how to use a computer, then I can take that software and create better uses for it and use my computer in a better way. Uh-huh. So in the same way, you may have a twin, let's say. Your twin has the same DNA as you, but your twin will be 100% guaranteed will be vastly different from you. For sure. From personality to health. One may be overweight, one may not. One may be prone to depression, the other one will not. One may be schizophrenic, the other one not. Yes. So what is it that determines that difference? Why is it that we share so much DNA with certain primates like a chimpanzee? However, we're very different from them. Yeah. It's not about the sequence. It's about how that sequence is used. Uh-huh. So I on my YouTube channel, I did 2 videos called What is DNA Hacking and How It Can Change Your Life. Mm-hmm. And in it, I describe and I go on a board and I give a lecture on how this works. So in essence, your DNA produces proteins. And you're familiar with proteins. Proteins do a variety of different things in your body. And so they're the tools of the cells. They are what produce what you see.
Okay.
What I see in the screen and your biochemistry, how your body reacts, how your cells function, etc. Even a lot of things about your personality and your brain function. And so your DNA can actually, its expression, what you produce from your DNA actually can change. So I can produce an expression of health, vitality, etc., or I can produce an expression that is associated with stress, with neurodegenerative disease, with cancer, so on and so forth. And so it is under my control whether I activate pathways of vitality and power and health, or I activate pathways of disease and stress and what have you. And so there are a variety of different ways in which you can do this. So for example, let me just give you an idea of how this works.
Yeah.
You have two groups of animals. One group of animal is stressed chronically. The other group of animal is not. It's in the same exact environment, but is not stressed. Even if this group of animals undergoes the same stressor, but you give it control to turn off the stressor, but the amount of time that they spend stressed is exactly the same. This group will not show changes in their gene expression that this group does. Wow. They will not show patterns of neuronal atrophy changes, damaging changes in your brain that this stress group that did not have control. And so control really matters, which I describe in the Art of Stress-Free Living. And so there is a way in which we can start to tap into our DNA, our cells, and bring ourselves, as I mentioned earlier, into a balance point, into a level of stability, into a level of mental clarity. And by doing a variety of different things, from certain things that I recommend in terms of diet, in terms of supplement, in terms of certain breathing and concentration exercises that I perfected over the course of the last couple of decades that I can teach people how to do. And so I have a retreat coming up in June, and I'll be teaching people how to hack their DNA, how to do this, how to live stress and disease free, and do it in a way that's more fun. Another key component to this is bringing yourself back to a state that you lost at a very early age. When you were younger, when you were more curious, when you were more playful, more full of vitality and love for life. And as you age, for whatever reason, you lose that. You have this sense that as you get older, you have to change and become more mature and more serious, and you lose this deep connection with your real self. And so a lot of this healing process is reconnecting the individual with who they really are, which is not the body, it's not the thoughts, it's the mind. You have to actually use certain techniques to reconnect yourself with your true self, and what that is must be experienced directly. And so I teach people how to do this, how to reconnect, and how to start to change the frequency of the projection of their consciousness onto their body, because people don't realize that they're not the body.
Yeah.
They project onto the body. The body's a gross manifestation of who you really are.
Yeah.
And so what you're trying to do is to project something different, to be present in the now, so that you can actually start to live in your body in a richer and more vibrant way. And it really starts to change. People aren't really aware of this because they're disconnected with that aspect of themselves. But over time, you actually reconnect with that aspect of yourself, and you are able to change the dynamics of your body consciously. So it's hard for people to really visualize this. That's why I refer them to the YouTube channel. There is a way to consciously start to drive your genetic processes and what is called the proteome, the combination of proteins, in the right way. So you yourself can start to build the right combination of proteins in your body that are actually associated with mental power, with greater levels of energy. So the way that I describe it is, rather than as you age, everything decays, it should actually peak. Your sex drive should not go down. Your energy level shouldn't go down. You shouldn't become more diseased. You shouldn't have cognitive mental deficits, so on and so forth, that you see associated with aging. You should actually become stronger and more vibrant. I'm going to be 43 this year, and I feel exactly the same as I did when I was a teenager.
Awesome.
And so you can actually do that, but you have to take the right steps and start by taking these measures and these changes that I teach people, how to actually build the right temple and be present in the now, so that you can actually start to heal, because healing only occurs in the present. And most people don't realize that. They spend more time in the future or in the past, or projected outside of their body, rather than bringing that back to themselves. It's not selfish to do so. You actually have to turn it towards you, so that you can actually be the person that other people can actually enjoy more.
That's awesome. That's great. So now let me ask you a couple of follow-up questions. In the world that we are living today, we have so many external factors that affect our well-being. So you already brought up diet. There's drinking water, there's air pollution, all kinds of other aspects, like sometimes I even get stressed watching television news or something like that. So how do you get around these external factors?
So what we need to understand is that how we feed ourselves does not involve just food. So at Ramos Rooted Tree and at DNA Hacker Secrets, I emphasize a whole plant-based diet. So what that means is that what you're eating is raw, live, and it's going to be plant-based. This has been shown by hundreds of studies to be associated with health benefits, and people don't realize this, but the food that you eat has phytochemicals that actually talk to your DNA, that activate the right genes that you want for detoxification, for lowering inflammation, for preventing cancer, so on and so forth. So we are constantly putting in our body foods that actually make us more susceptible to stress, more susceptible to inflammation, to disease, so on and so forth. And two, yes, you are 100% right. What you feed yourself is not just food. News matters, shows that you watch, music that you listen to. We have become a nature-deprived society, and we need to actually reconnect with nature. We need to actually start to stimulate our senses, because we are a species that grew up in sync with nature. And the world that we live in, this kind of capitalist culture that we live in, Western culture has completely destroyed nature and separated us from that. We may live in a city, in a polluted city with polluted water, with food with lower nutrient quality. We feed ourselves fast food or foods that are not of good quality content. We are stimulating our senses with information that is of energetic quality that is damaging to the stability of our system. So these things, again, are bringing us away from that balance point. So I personally don't really follow the news, especially news on TV, because the news on the TV is designed very much like an action film. They want to put things in there that agitate the mind. And so what you want to do is to try to instill different habits, to read enlightening books, things that actually elevate the mind, that change, again, your frequency, to bring you away from the density of disease, pain, suffering, agitation, so on and so forth, and elevates you into a different realm, associating yourself with a different level of individual, of a higher quality, that inspire you. That can be done through the internet nowadays, because, for example, I have a YouTube channel. There's a lot of people, Tony Robbins, for example, a ton of people that have very inspiring things that they're doing that you can actually connect to. Music, of course, is another great way. There's a lot of practices that I do to counter this environment that is increasingly polluted, from breathing techniques. So I have what I call a purification sequence that involves mantra practice, which is this kind of repetition, for those that aren't familiar, repetition of really sacred sounds that produce a vibration that stimulates the right level of frequency that you want, the right state of mind that you want, and maybe even the activation of certain areas of your body that you want. And so depending on the person, I recommend certain mantras. So practicing certain mantras, certain breathing exercises, starting to do the right exercises that are not damaging to the body. This is something people don't think about. Mm-hmm. We associate health with somebody that looks, very fit. Yes. So we think of somebody that's a health coach as somebody that's jacked, looking ripped or whatever, or a woman that looks with a very attractive body. And that really isn't a measure of health. A lot of these individuals are doing exercises that actually are very bad for the joints, for example, that immunosuppress you, meaning they make you more susceptible to disease. And so you have to actually start to grow a connection, a deeper connection with your body, with nature, with yourself in a very deeper sense, so that you can actually start seeing the things that drive you away. Even what I'm doing now drives me away slightly from balance, because I start to outpour myself to others. Like when I give a big speech, let's say, if I were to work, let's say, with a big coach, let's say a Tony Robbins, and he's all day giving to people, there are certain things that I do during an event like that to bring me back, to constantly rein me in during the day. So if I'm a business person, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm super busy all the time, a Gary Vee, for example, a guy that I would love to work with because I would be able to transform his life. I can see him, he's my age. And if you look at him, me and him side by side is night to day. This guy's working himself to death. There is no need to do that. You can actually be ultra productive. I put in sometimes 15-hour days and I'm on vacation all the time like Gandhi was. You can actually do that. There are ways in which you can tap into these techniques, into yourself, into this aspect of well-being, and actually be more productive, because you don't decay over time. You're not wearing yourself out. You're actually, like, I do my best work as I ending the day. I start off here and I keep peaking. And when it's time to go to sleep, I don't go to sleep because, I'm exhausted, I go to sleep. I go lie down to rest the body. And you can actually, I teach this in one of my videos and in my courses, you can actually transcend sleep altogether, where you don't lose consciousness. You can maintain consciousness and continue to experience aspects of the world that remain veiled to the majority of the population. There's an aspect of the universe that is inaccessible to the majority because they lose consciousness and are unable to experience that. So there's a lot to this. And so what I urge people is to connect with me on social media. And that's a great way, because I put a lot of content from recipes that I recommend, because people ask me, what do I eat? And I try to talk about that, to different exercises that you can do. I'm going to have treatment manuals for different conditions if you suffer already from a chronic illness. There's going to be a lot of good stuff. So that's a great way to do so. Obviously, getting a copy of The Art of Stress-Free Living. I am already working on my next book on this topic that's going to be focusing on not 100% stress-free, but 100% disease-free. Is going to be my DNA Hacker's Guide. And I'm going to go into details on a lot of the things that I do, how to access not just a part of the universe that you don't see, but access a part of the energy that's there that most people are not accessing. They live with a little smidgen of it. And a lot of that has to do with how you breathe, because we breathe like animals rather than humans. We don't breathe in a way that energizes and empowers us. Yeah. And so there is a way in which you can actually build your energy level and draw it in consciously to transform your body from within and to activate your DNA in the right way.
That's great. All right. How does, so when people get started and they, connect with you and they start to learn this, what is the typical time period in which they can start to see the effects if they obviously follow the process?
Uh, if you have somebody that's very like suffering from chronic condition, let's say they have diabetes or something of that sort, or cardiovascular disease, within a few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, they're going to notice a difference.
Awesome.
Notice the difference, meaning that if they were to go to the physician and get their cholesterol tested, their sugar levels, they will notice that they have dropped often into normal range.
That's great.
And of course, somebody asked me this question recently, and so they said, what's the time range? It really depends on each individual case, because you may be healthier than somebody else. You may be more disposed, and you may be more evolved in a sense. Everybody's very different. They have their own past. And so when I get to know them, I have to assess where they are and where they can get to. And so the key is to want to start now. You want to have a brighter future. You want to be able to enjoy your later years. That's something I work mostly with younger people. And younger people often don't think about this because they bounce back easier and all that kind of stuff. They don't think about death and aging and all that kind of stuff. That's what somebody that's older may think about. But as you can live a privileged life, a life of a God, the life that you deserve, and not have to think about these obstacles. I tell people all the time, what if you never have to worry about stress and disease ever again? How much is that worth to you? And often enough, the answer that people give me is, there is no price. This is priceless. And so what I do, to me, has enormous value, and I don't do it for that value. I do it so that I can have more energy and abundance to serve others, to help people to see that change. And so you can actually do simple things and see results within a month. The longer you persist, the transformation will continue until eventually you will be free of stress and disease. And I know that because I'm living proof of that. And of course, you don't know me. You don't know if that's true. But I know that I am not the only person that has done this. And there is a way to do this. And I have searched deep and far. And my goal is to take people and try to synthesize my life and what I've done, coming from a very difficult background where at 2 weeks old, I had a surgery to save my life. And I suffered from asthma when I was younger. I was constantly congested when I was all the way up to my teenage years. When I moved to the United States, I struggled with depression and anxiety. And I was wrestling with a lot of different things, having lost my dad at an early age. A lot of things, to the point where now I don't have any of that. And you can actually do that in the here and now. There is no need to wait. A lot of people, a lot of people are waiting for this idea of a paradise, of a heaven, whatever you want to call it. And they look around them and they see all this war and this environmental destruction, all these problems. And I can promise you that you don't have to wait to leave your body. You don't have to wait till the exterior changes. Everything can happen right here in the here and now. And you can do it. But the only way that you do it is by building it now, by planning, having a vision, and executing so that you can know how to get there. And oftentimes, a guide is required. So if I'm lost in a forest, I don't know where I'm going, it's helpful to have somebody that knows the forest, that ranger, that can point the way. That's me. That's what I do for people. I align them so that they know where they're going until eventually I let them go so that they can do their own thing. I don't want people to depend on me forever. I don't want them to depend on the medical system that's broken. That is helpful, but it doesn't teach you the skills to break free so that you can live the life that you deserve.
That's great. All right. Now let's bring it back to the capitalist society that we live in. How does this, this mind-blowing idea of DNA hacking, how does this help entrepreneurs, professionals, and people who have to go to work 9 to 5 or even longer?
Well, Um, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an author. I work a ton. I work with people all the time. And my goals are big, very, very big. I'm working with some of the top coaches, including Tony Robbins, to actually build this. I put my money where my mouth is. I invest in myself. I expect people that I work with to invest in themselves, to believe in themselves. Mm-hmm. I keep driving myself. So I'm very driven. My work ethic is second to none. If you're an entrepreneur and you're working in a way that is leading yourself to a life later on that you will not enjoy the fruits of your labors. You can begin right now to enjoy your life in a greater fashion and to be more productive. This actually has ramifications, not just for the entrepreneur, for the business owner, but for the business itself, because you can actually build a culture. So if I learn to build the internal culture, I can actually learn to build the culture around me, both in my home, in my business, with the people that I interact with, so that I create a dynamic that doesn't induce stress and disease in my workers. My workers actually look forward to coming to work. They get sick less, they produce more, and they actually take time to heal and nurture and to remain balanced, so that when they leave work, they're not worn and beaten down. So like, for example, if I work with attorneys or physicians who work really difficult hours, we have to learn as humans that we don't have to grind. We can actually break this stress pathway that continues to build and build and build that I describe in the Art of Stress-Free Living. We can actually insert breaks during the day at different increments so that I can actually prevent that from happening. And I can end the day in a way that I get home and I am a better version of myself. So in the book, I also talk about how to transition from work to home. People don't transition from the role of work to the role of the house. My wife is a great example of this. She'll get home and she'll be in give order mode, in go at a very fast-paced mode. And so she's learned to kind of change the way that she approaches when she gets home, so as she shifts and she inserts breaks in her day so that she doesn't get home a broken down version of herself that sometimes would take her hours to get herself back. And that actually impacts your children, it impacts your spouse or your partner, and it impacts your quality of life, how you really enjoy life. If you have pain, you don't have to have those pain and those aches. You don't have to wake up one day and realize that you have cancer. Disease doesn't even have to exist in your very consciousness. It not even is a worry of mine.
Yeah. And so obviously the some of the effects could be that, the materialistic things that we are looking for as entrepreneurs, they may come easy because we are less stressed and we are more productive. Is it not?
Exactly. And if you do that to yourself, you actually, what I teach entrepreneurs is those things that you want for yourself, that you do for yourself, you must also do that for your employees. You must also build a culture, because if you do, you're taking that wherever you go. You never leave that Zen zone. You build a Zen zone in your office, in your desk area. You build that Zen zone for your employees, so that everywhere you go, it's like, you come to the doctor's office and they have some relaxing music playing. Maybe they have a little fish tank. They design an environment that when you go in, it's kind of relaxing. You sit there, you're not worried about, oh, look at the line. There's so many people here. You start worrying that you'll be waiting for an hour. It's kind of the same thing. That why don't we do that as well in a business environment? Why don't we create an environment in the business that nurtures that, not just for myself, not being selfish, but for my entire group of coworkers, so that the dynamics are different and it sustains my balance point throughout the day. I do practices during the day that I teach. I teach people how to integrate them, not grind, and then when they get home, let me de-stress. I don't teach stress reduction. You can use these techniques for stress reduction, but what I teach is stress eradication. Because this concept of grind, I see entrepreneurs all the time. They grind, they're a mess. They go to a retreat, they feel better. Oh, this was amazing. They go back, grind, and then they're looking for a relief. It's just the same medical model as I get sick, I go get relief. What we need to do is to build that retreat environment in my very life. I am the walking retreat. And therefore, I am always on vacation, no matter if I am super productive, which you can be, because my mission in life, the reason why I'm here in this world, is to teach people how to bridge the gap between East and West. You don't have to go to a cave. You can bring the peace of an ashram, of a monastery, wherever you go, no matter if you live in the hectic New York City or you live in Montana in the middle of the forest. You can actually have that at all times. You are the reason why you get sick, or the reason why you're at peace and at health. And you can do that even if you're in the Western world, even if you're super productive and super successful. You would be even more successful and would enjoy things more. And at another level, oftentimes what happens with people when I work with them is they realize that what they were doing is meaningless. That's not what they were meant to do. They were working for no reason. For what? To work, make money, build a house, and at the end retire, and what? And then all of a sudden they built all this material wealth that they cannot take with them when their body dies. And what was the point then? There is a greater purpose. And oftentimes what I do with people is that I help them discover what that greater purpose is. And throughout all of that, obviously, comes the greater health and vitality and all that, because you start to tap into the real you and not this imposter you that we superimpose in front of the real one that is vibrant and beautiful and full of truth and bliss. That is the one that I want to bring out in people, is the one that most of us expressed as a child, and we lost that connection. I used to teach, I've taught at every level, even at the level of going towards high school, middle school. And I used to take my kids to school and see them so excited, all these kids excited. And when you got to high school, they're plodding along. Some of that passion gets siphoned out. We can bring that childlike passion, curiosity, and vitality back to reconnect you with your true self. And then magical things start to happen that are not magic, fake magic. They are true magic in the sense that they are tangible and real.
That's awesome. That's great. All right. Is there anything else that I have not asked you about DNA hacking, particularly for our entrepreneurs in the audience?
I would say if you want to learn more details about that, I go into 2 videos. What is DNA hacking? They go on YouTube. What is DNA hacking and how it can change your life? Those 2 videos, I explain it in detail. It will definitely make sense to them. It's my 2 most watched videos. I uploaded it probably a few weeks ago, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. It already has over 2,000 views. So it's been watched, and it's the average time of watch of those videos, it's the max amount. People are watching it completely. It really is an important video. It's going to be what's going to be in my upcoming book that's going to come out at the end of the year, at the beginning of the next one. Okay. And so the best way is connect with me on social media. I post a ton of valuable content, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course the YouTube channel is the great one, because I post at least 3 videos a week, and it's growing very quickly. It's only like a month old, and it already has over 1,000 subscribers, and it keeps growing daily. So that's the best way to do it. And of course, they can download a free copy of my book on my website, and at Ramos Rooted Tree, RAMAS, Ramos Rooted Tree. And there they can get a free copy of the book. Or if they want to make a donation, They can get into Amazon. All the money there goes to charitable causes. So the book is not to make money, it's to create awareness. And in that book, I explain all the things that you can do to actually start to reclaim your health and to start to become more stress-free.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you so much for doing this. What I'll do is I'll grab the links for the YouTube channel and your book, and we'll add it to the show notes.
Yeah, if you go on my contact us page on the website, you'll see all the links there for social media.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramos, for this great interview and sharing this new concept of DNA hacking with everyone. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it and got a lot of value out of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Take care.
So again, I'm Manuj Aggarwal, and thanks a lot for joining us on the Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. I'm guessing there are a lot of type A ambitious personalities in the audience today. And you guys are always busy thinking about your next big move, your next plan to conquer the world. I know, because I'm also constantly trapped inside my own head. To avoid stress and live a healthy and happy life, I highly recommend Ziva Online Meditation course. This course is taught by world-renowned meditation teacher Emily Fletcher. Trust me, meditation has been scientifically proven to reduce stress and heal chronic ailments. So if you want to learn meditation, then you would want to check out this course for sure. I can vouch for it. It helped me tremendously. Go to go.tetranoodle.com/Z1. That's go.tetranoodle.com/Z1. And now, I'd like to invite you to check out my software consulting services and professional training programs at www.tetranoodle.com. We provide world-class consulting services on anything related to technology and software. And we are growing very fast in the areas of education and professional training for software and IT engineers. If you enjoyed this episode, then please do share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes to get automatic episode updates for our Bootstrapping Your Dreams show. And finally, please take a minute to leave us an honest review and rating on iTunes. They really help us out when it comes to the ranking of the show, and I make it a point to read every single one of the reviews we get. Thanks for listening. Stay happy and curious. Have a great day.